Hey guys, I'm T and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, we make trendy and fun crochet tutorials twice a week. And if you haven't already, smash that like button, drop a comment below, and subscribe to join in on the fun. Today I'll be teaching how to make a wrap sweater dress. Here's a design that's been in the tuck for a while and I'm happy to finally let loose. It's a sweater dress, so there's peak comfort, balloon sleeves which are a cold weather staple for me, and a lovely wrap that's sure to keep you tucked in and cozy. Speaking of, if you love feeling toasty in your makes, you've stumbled into the right place. We have hundreds of beautiful, modern crochet designs and patterns sure to keep you warm, including new patterns weekly, so consider clicking the bell to subscribe and you'll never miss an upload. Also, do me a huge favor and give this video a big thumbs up if you like it, or 2 thumbs down if you don't. Either way, it's a great way to show support so I can keep putting out free tutorials every Wednesday and Sunday. Now, it's time to get on the show, so without further ado, for this project, any category 4 yarn will work, but I used a total of 900 grams of yarn, and that's 1,200 yards if you're stateside, and the individual measurements will be on the screen. As for tools, a 6mm hook, scissors, stitch markers, and a tape measure. There is a written pattern down below. Use offer code TCDDIY for a discount off any $9.99 plus order, and enter this week's pattern giveaway by telling us if you prefer grilled cheese or a PB&J sandwich. I am always down for a grilled cheese. Details for the giveaway down below. We're using 4 stitches for this project, and they'll be as follows. Chain, slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet. This tutorial is for size small, but you can adjust it for your size, and we explain how to in the video, so let's get started. Getting this top started, we're all going to grab our category 4 yarn and make a slip knot. Next, we're all going to grab our 6mm hook, and this is going to start off the same for every size, so let's all start by making a chain 1. Now after that chain 1, we're going to block off that chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And into that chain that we blocked off, or the first chain that we made, we're going to insert with 5 half double crochets. So we're all going to yarn over, insert our hook into that third chain from our hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. There's our first half double crochet. Let's do 4 more. Yarn over, into that same first chain, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. 3 more, yarn over, into that same first chain, pull through all 3. 2 more, yarn over, insert, pull through all 3, and 1 more, insert, pull through all 3. Now we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half double crochets into that first chain. Now let's get started on our row 2, so it's all chain 2 and flip our work. Our row 2 is going to be 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one. So we should all do a total of 4 back loop half double crochets. We're going to yarn over, find that last stitch from our previous row, and insert into that back loop, pull through all 3. Again, yarn over, finding that next stitch and inserting into that back loop, pull through all 3. Again, yarn over into that following stitch's back loop, pull through all 3, and we should all have just 1 more left to do right before our last stitch. So yarn over into that second to last stitch's back loop, pull through 3, and we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 back loop half double crochets. Into that last stitch from our previous row, we're now going to do an increase. But our increase is going to be 2 back loop half double crochets and 1 back loop double crochet all into that last stitch. So let's all yarn over, insert your hook into that back loop with 1, into that same back loop with 2 half double crochets, and then into that same back loop with 1 double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook into that same back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that is our increase. let's get started on our row 3. So we're going to chain 3 and flip our work. Getting started on the first increase for our row 3, we're going to start with 1 back loop double crochet and then 2 back loop half double crochets into that same first stitch. So yarn over. Into that last stitch from our previous row, we're going to insert into that back loop, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and then 2 back loop half double crochets into that same first stitch. So yarn over, insert, pull through 3. With our first half double, 1 more into that same first back loop. And now from here, 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. So yarn over, insert into that following back loop with 1 half double crochet and continue putting 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. Our row 3 is finished. After that increase, we should all have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back loop half double crochets. From here, it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows, so let's get started on the following 2 rows together. Getting started on our row 4, or any even number row, we're going to chain 2 and flip our work. For every even number row, we're going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving the last one so we can increase. Our row 4 is finished. We left that last available stitch so that we can increase together. Really quickly, we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 back loop half double crochets. Now into that last, we're going to do an increase, which is 2 back loop half doubles and 1 back loop double into that same last stitch. So yarn over into that back loop with 1 half double, same back loop with a second half double, and same back loop with a double crochet. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows finished. Let's do our row 5. So getting started on any odd number row, we're going to chain 3 and flip our work. Each of our odd number rows is going to start with an increase. So it's going to start with 1 back loop double and 2 back loop half doubles into that same first stitch. So yarn over, insert, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then 2 back loop half doubles into that same first stitch. So there's my first, there's my second, and we're going to put 1 back loop half double crochet into the rest of our stitches. Our row 5 is now finished, and we should all have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 back loop half double crochets, and that's not including our increase. From here, it's going to be a repeat of our 2 previous rows until we get the total height that we need. So we're going to start by placing the blunt end of our piece, which is going to be the bottom of our sweater, right where we want the bottom of our sweater to be, keeping in mind that we will have a bottom band. So you can make this cropped, full length, or just a little bit longer than full length. Mine is going to be the one that's a little bit longer than full length. And we're going to continue on with our increases until this increase end can reach all the way up to the top of our shoulder. But we do want to be aware that the longer this piece is going to be, the wider it's going to be due to the increases and the fact that the increases needs to reach all the way up to the top of the shoulder. And the last thing I'm going to mention is that the outside stitch on our increase end is a double crochet, because if we do an increase of just all 3 back loop half double crochets, then our work will start to curve and we won't have a clean line like this. But just continue to repeat our 2 previous rows until we get the full front panel that we need, and then I will meet you back along the top so we can do the shoulder portion from there. I am back with the width of my front panel. I have a total of 38 rows, and my width is 17.5 inches or 44 centimeters, or my total height is 23 inches or 58 centimeters. It's kind of hard to show you anything because it's a pretty decent sized front panel, but this is what the bottom looks like. And now that we have this, we're going to get started on our shoulder. So this is going to be dependent on you. Our shoulder is just going to be 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until you get the width of the front panel that you would like. Now, like I said in the previous clip, since mine is a little bit longer, my front panel is already pretty wide, so I'm actually just going to be doing 1 shoulder row. But if you made a smaller piece, or if you would just like a really slouchy oversized fit, you can continue to do more back loop half double crochet rows until you get the shoulder panel that you'd like. but all I would suggest is to make sure that your shoulder portion doesn't go past 2 inches past the tip of your shoulder, because otherwise it's just going to be a really, really wide piece. So all I'm going to do, since I am along the top, is chain 2, flip my work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, no increases and no decreases. Like I said, I'm just going to have 1 shoulder row, so at the end of this row, I'm going to do a chain up of 1 and cut. I am back with my shoulder portion. I just did 1 shoulder row, so I now have a total of 39 rows for my front panel, and my total width is 18.5 inches or 47 centimeters. And once we have 1 of these all finished up, we're going to make a second identical panel. And when we have both of our front panels finished, we're now going to get started on our back panel. So now that both of our front panels are finished, getting started on our back panel, we're all going to grab our same category 4 yarn, our same 6mm hook, and we're going to start off by making a chain, the same amount of stitches as our last row for our front panel, so our last shoulder row. For those of you that have my numbers, I had a total of 79 stitches, so I will now be making a chain of 79. And I already have my back panel finished, so I'm just going to do a sample size with you. Now that we have our chain, let's block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 does not count as a stitch, that's our turning chain. And from here, we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, with 1 half double crochet. So bring your hook down into that chain, pull through all 3, and put 1 half double crochet into every chain. Now that we have our row 1 finished, we're going to get started on our following row, which is our back loop half double crochet row. So all we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, and that's it. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again. From here, we're just going to continue to repeat this row with no increases and no decreases until we get a back panel that reaches from the tip of our shoulder across our back to the tip of our shoulder. And we just want to make sure that we're not making this too wide, because otherwise our piece may have a hard time sitting on our shoulders, since like I said, it is going to be a little wide and oversized. So go ahead and get this done. After your last row, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back. I am back and the entirety of my back panel is finished. Now I have a total of 31 rows for my back panel, and my width is just about 14 inches or 36 centimeters. Now that we have the back panel finished, we're going to seam our front and back panel together. We're all going to start by placing our front panel on top of our back panel, having the point of our front panel towards the inside of our piece, and having the 2 long ends within the front and the back panel aligned on the side. Next, we're going to insert our hook into the top corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, insert, pull through, and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now to do our seam, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row, making sure we're working in through both the front and the back panel as well. But for those of you that just have 1 shoulder row just like me, just to make sure that it's secure, we're going to be putting 2 single crochets into the top of those rows. So really quickly, for those of us that just have 1 shoulder row, we're going to insert our hook into that top loop within the front panel, that top loop within the back panel, single crochet once, and then into that same top loop, we're going to insert again within the front and the back panel. It should be a little bit easier since our stitches should be gathered, and we're going to single crochet them together. Now, since I just have 1 shoulder row, I'm going to do a chain up of 1 and cut. For those of us that have more than 1 shoulder row, what we're going to do is alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So just as an example, find your first side row right here, find that top loop and insert your hook in through that loop. Find that same top loop within the back panel and single crochet once. And into your next side row, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So find that top loop within that following side row. Within the back panel, find that second side row and insert into that top loop and single crochet. And then since this is our second side row, put 1 more single crochet into that same top loop. For 1 single crochet into the first side row, and then 2 single crochet into the following side row. And from there, just continue to alternate until you don't have any more side rows left to work into within the front panel. When you don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. So I am back and our shoulders are all seamed up. Next, we're going to seam up our sides. So first things first, we're going to need to insert our stitch marker into an even numbered stitch from the top where we'd like for our sleeve to be. I would like for my sleeve to be a little bit wider as well. So I've inserted my stitch marker into the 30th stitch from the top, and that's just about 8 inches or 20 centimeters. Next, we're going to seam up our sides. So let's make sure that our work is still flipped wrong side out, meaning the seam that we have for the shoulder is along the outside. And then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of the front and the back panel. We are going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and another single crochet seam just like how we did for the shoulders, but this one's a little bit easier since we have actual stitches to work into. So let's find that next stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, next stitch into the back panel, and single crochet. Let's do that again. Into that next stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, next stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, single crochet, and continue this until we reach our stitch marker. When we do a chain up 1 and cut, and then repeat on the other side. So now that everything is all seamed up, we're going to get started on the front band. So we're going to flip our work right side out, meaning all the seams that we have are now along the inside. And then we're going to insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch that we have into one of our front panels. It doesn't matter which one. And then we're going to do a single crochet row with our primary color, so the same color that we did the body with. So insert your yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And all we're going to do is 2 single crochets into every side row, making our way all the way up the front panel. So let's all start by finding our first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook in through there, and if you're like me, you should have some tail ends. And since I do not want to weave them in later, I'm going to place those tail ends over my hook and single crochet around everything so I don't need to weave them in later. And we're going to be putting 1 more single crochet into that same top loop. So I'm going to insert and single crochet. So 2 single crochets into that first side row. Let's do our next side row. Find that top loop, insert with 1, and then into that same top loop with a second single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue to put 2 single crochet into every side row until we reach our back panel. So now that we've made our way all the way up our front band with our single crochets, we're now going to single crochet across our back panel. But since we're working into side half double crochets for the back panel, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So we're all going to find our first side row right here. This is not my first since that is my shoulder row. I'm going to insert my hook into that top loop with 1 single crochet. This is my following side row. I'm going to insert my hook into there with 2 single crochets now. So there's 1. There is 2. And just once more, my following side row, there's 1 single crochet. Here's my following side row, there's 2 single crochet. And we're going to continue doing that, making our way all the way down. And once we're working our way down our front panel on the other side, continue to put 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we don't have any more side rows left to work into, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So our single crochet row with our primary color is all finished. We're now going to get started on our front band, which is actually going to be done with our secondary color yarn. So go ahead and grab that, make a slip knot, insert our hook into the bottom corner stitch of our front panel, so pretty much the same stitch that we inserted into for our previous single crochet row. Insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're just going to put 1 single crochet into every stitch, make our way all the way up and over. When we reach our bottom front panel's last stitch, I will meet you back. We've made our way all the way around, putting 1 single crochet into every stitch with our secondary color. Now we're going to get started on our second row, which is going to be all half double crochets. So from where we're at, which should be the bottom corner stitch, all we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch until we reach the other corner within the front panel. Okay, so our half double crochet row is now finished, and now we're going to start working on the ribbing and the width of our front panel. And that's just going to be front post and back post double crochets. So let's get that started. So right after our last half double crochet, we're all going to chain 2, flip our work, and we're going to start with 1 front post double crochet. So we're all going to start by skipping that last half double crochet from our previous row, and then do a front post double crochet into that following stitch. So we're going to yarn over, find that second half double crochet from our previous row, insert your hook underneath the body of that stitch and through the other side. From there, we're going to yarn over, pull through. We're going to pull up tall to get the same height as the chain 2 that we made, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So a double crochet per usual after we pull tall. And right after that front post double crochet, we're now going to do a back post double crochet. So yarn over. We're going to bring our hook now underneath our work and then over that following half double crochet from our previous row. So bring your hook underneath, through that gap, over that following available half double crochet and through the other side. That's what the top should look like. And then we're going to yarn over, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now all together we should have one front post, one back post double crochet. Let's do another set together. Starting with the yarn over, preparing for a front post double crochet. We're going to find that next half double crochet from our previous row. Insert your hook underneath that half double crochet and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2, and then to do a back post, yarn over again. Bring our hook underneath our work, in through that following gap, over that next available half double crochet, and through the other side. Yarn over, pull through, pull up tall, pull through 2, pull through 2. And we're going to continue to alternate between a front and back post double crochet, making our way all the way around, leaving the last stitch that we have, and then I'll meet you back to close off the row. So I've made my way all the way around with my front and back post double crochets, and we should all have just one stitch left. Now into that last stitch, just to keep this edge nice and blunt, we're going to insert with one half double crochet to finish off this row. And that is that. Now let's get started on our second front and back post double crochet row. So let's all chain 2 and flip our work. So now that our work is flipped, we're going to continue to repeat our front and back post double crochets. But our stitches may be different depending on what our last stitch was. So we're going to want to extend the stitch from our previous row just to get a really pretty ribbing. So for me, since my last stitch from my previous row looks like a back post double crochet, I will be now doing a back post double crochet. But if yours looks like a front post, you will be doing a front post, and that is going to be the remainder of the stitches until we get the length of the front band that we want. So just as an example, we're going to yarn over. We're going to find that first stitch that we have. Mine looks like a back post, so I will be doing a back post. So I'm going to bring my hook underneath my work, over that following stitch's body and through the other side, and do one back post double crochet to get a ribbing. Now my following stitch looks like a front post double crochet, so I'll be doing a front post double crochet, and that's basically it. We're just going to continue to extend our previous row stitches until we get the width of our front band that we want. Once we have that width, go ahead and do a chain up of 1 and cut. I am back and the entirety of my front band is all finished. I made a total of 7 rows, that is including my first single crochet row that was with our primary color, and my width for this is just about 2.5 inches or 6 centimeters. Now right before I move on to doing the bottom band, just as a really quick tip, if your front band starts to curve upward like this, that's completely normal. It'll all even out once when it's seamed. So let's flip our work upside down. We're all going to start by inserting our hook into the bottom corner stitch of the front panel, so that's into the front band corner, and we're going to insert our secondary color yarn, so the same color as the front band, onto our hook, and we're going to start by doing single crochets just into the front band. So we're going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now we are going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. So getting that started, we're going to find that first side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to find that top loop, insert my hook with just 1 single crochet. And into my following side row, this is mine right here, I'm going to insert my hook into there with 2 single crochets. So there is 1, and then there is 2. Let's do that again. Into that next side row, insert into that top loop with 1. Into that next side row, insert into that top loop with 2. So there's 1, and there's 2. And we're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way down. And once we reach our single crochet row that we did with our secondary color, we're going to put 1 single crochet into that stitch. And now we're going to switch out to our primary color yarn to work underneath the body portion. So right after that last single crochet, we're going to chain 1 and cut. So now that we've single crocheted across the bottom of our front band, we're going to switch out to our primary color yarn. So how we're going to attach our new color yarn is by inserting your same 6mm hook into the last single crochet that we did with our secondary color yarn. You're going to insert our primary color yarn onto our hook and pull through. And from here, we're just going to continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. And just as a really quick tip, we're inserting our hook into the last stitch from our secondary color single crochet section, because if we just insert our hook into that following side row that we have a gap in between the secondary and the primary color, and we don't want that. But once we pulled our hook through, we're going to find that first side row that we did when we got started with our front band, that first single crochet row. You're going to insert our hook, and if you have some tail ends like me, go ahead and grab them and just place them over your hook so that we don't need to weave those in later. And then we're going to single crochet. That's my first single crochet with my primary color. Now my following side row is my first side half double crochet row. So I'm going to find that top loop. I'm going to insert my hook with 1 single crochet. Into my following side row, insert into that top loop with 2 single crochets. So there's 1 and there's 2, and that is that for this section. We are now going to continue to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row until we don't have any more side rows left to work into when it comes to working on the bottom of the front panel or with our primary color. When we don't have any more of those stitches left, do a chain up of 1 and cut, and then I will meet you back to finish off the single crochet row with our secondary color. So I have single crocheted my way across the bottom of my body, and now we're going to finish off our single crochet row by single crocheting into all the side rows that we have into the front band. So just like when we switched our colors, we're going to insert our hook into that last single crochet that we did with our primary color now. Insert our secondary color yarn onto our hook and pull through. From here, we're going to find that first side row, which should be that side single crochet row. Insert your hook in through there with just 1 single crochet. And then from here, we're going to alternate between 1 to 2 single crochets into every side row. Once we reach the end of the row, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our single crochet row is finished, we're now going to do another single crochet row with our secondary color yarn that combines both our top front panel and our bottom front panel as well. So right before we get started, we are going to need to insert our stitch markers into the stitches that we have that's nearest to our side seam. So I have opened up my piece and I have inserted my stitch marker into the stitches that I have that's right next to my side seam. These are my side seams right here. This one's a little bit easier to see, but this one is kind of facing the other direction. But this is my side seam right here as well. We're going to want to insert it into the stitches that we have that's worked into the back panel. So since this is my side seam and this is my back panel right in the middle, I inserted my stitch marker into the first stitch that was worked into my back panel, and then on my other side into the last stitch that was worked into my back panel right before this side seam right over here. And now we're going to be closing our front panels. So making sure our work is flipped right side out, we're going to take our right panel, place that down first, then I'm going to take my left panel, place it down on top of that, and now we're going to single crochet everything together. So let's all start by finding that last stitch that we have that's done with our primary color into the top front panel that we have. So insert your hook in through that stitch right there. And now we're going to be inserting our hook into the stitch that's right next to that stitch marker stitch that we just inserted into. So if you need to, go ahead and adjust your work. And then into the stitch right after, working towards the front panel, we're going to insert our hook in through there. So making sure that we're not working into that stitch marker stitch, we're going to insert our stitch into that following stitch, working towards the front panel. Now we're going to take our secondary color yarn and insert that onto our hook. Going to insert, pull through everything, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to single crochet into both the top and the bottom front panels at the same time. So let's all start by finding that first stitch into the front panel, insert your hook, find that first stitch into the back panel, insert your hook, and single crochet them together. And as you guys can see, the top panel and the bottom panel are nice and connected, so let's do that again. Into that next stitch, into the top panel, next stitch into the bottom panel, and single crochet. And we're going to continue this, making our way all the way across, and I'll meet you back right before we get started on combining our top panel with our front band along the bottom. Okay, so I've made my way all the way down with my single crochets. The last stitch that we should have been worked into should have been the stitch that's right before our stitch marker stitch, and along the bottom should have been the last single crochet that we did with our primary color. Now from here, we're going to combine our back panel, because remember this stitch marker is now worked within the back panel. We're going to combine our back panel with the bottom of our front band. And this is actually going to be done exactly the same way. I just wanted to meet you back to make sure that the amount of stitches that we do for this section right here, we keep that in mind, because I will meet you back when we have the same amount of stitches left to combine the front band on the other side. So just into my next stitch, I'm going to insert into that next stitch, into that next stitch, into the bottom, and single crochet. And you guys don't have to, but I'm just going to insert my stitch marker into there so I know where this first one is. And I'm going to continue to do this until I don't have any more stitches left into my front band. So I have just finished up single crocheting across the bottom of my front band. And I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these stitches. Now I'm going to continue to put one single crochet into every stitch, just into the back panel since we don't have anything to combine it with, until I have a total of 8 stitches left. I will meet you back when you have your total of stitches left so we combine our front band to our piece. So I've made my way all the way around with my single crochets with my secondary color yarn. Like I said, I was going to meet you back when I had a total of 8 stitches left, because that's the amount of single crochets that I did along the bottom of my front band. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches left. And just to confirm, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stitches along the bottom of just my front band. Now we're going to combine them together, pretty much the same way that we have combined everything else so far. Let's all start by inserting our hook into that first stitch into the front band, that following available stitch into the back panel, and single crocheting them together. Again, next stitch into the bottom of the front band, and into that next stitch. And that is it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into. So we've just single crocheted into every stitch along the bottom of our front band, and now we're just going to slip stitch it into that chain space. So insert your hook into that chain space that we made when we started this row, yarn over, pull through everything, and now this row is finished. Now we're going to start working on the length of the bottom band, and that's going to be a bunch of front post double crochets, so pretty much the same thing that we did for the front band. We're going to have to start with a half double crochet row though, so we're going to chain 2, and put 1 half double crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. Alright, so our half double crochet row is now finished. Let's close it off and get started on our first front and back post double crochet row. So what we're going to do to close off this row is count up the first 2 chains that we made when we started this row. So there's 1, there's 2. Into that second chain, go ahead and insert your hook, yarn over, pull through everything on our hook. Now to get started on our first front and back post double crochet row, we're going to chain 2. And we're just going to find that first half double crochet from our previous row, making sure we're not working in through that chain 2, and do a front post double crochet. And then into that next half double crochet, do a back post double crochet. And that's it. Just alternate between a front and back post double crochet till we reach the end of the row. So our first front and back post double crochet row is finished. Now from here, we're going to continue to do front and back post double crochet rows until we get the length of the bottom band that we'd like. So just to close off the row, we're going to slip stitch into that second chain that we made when we started off the row, chain 2, and working in the same direction that we were already working in, we're going to extend our previous row stitches. So since our first stitch is a front post double, we're going to do a front post double, then into that next stitch, a back post double, and that is it. We're just going to continue to do this until we get the length of the bottom band that we'd like. Once we do get that, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So I am back and my bottom band is all finished. Counting from my first single crochet row with my primary color, I have a total of 12 rows, and this height is just about 4 inches or 10 centimeters, and I did do a chain up of 1 and cut. Now let's get started on our sleeve. Now getting started on our sleeve, we're all going to make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and then we're going to insert our hook into the stitch that we have that's nearest to our side seam. Then we're going to insert our yarn onto our hook, pull through, and now we're going to make a chain the length that we'd like for our sleeve to be. So you can make this short sleeves or long. I'd like for mine to be long, so I'm going to start by making chain 50, and that's 14 inches or 36 centimeters. Now that we have our chain, we're going to do a half double crochet row. So block off that last chain and do a chain 2. That chain 2 doesn't count as a stitch, that's our turning chain, and all we're going to do is put 1 half double crochet into every chain, leaving the last one. So yarn over, into that chain that we blocked off, or the third chain from our hook, insert, pull through all 3, and continue on with our half double crochets. I'll meet you back when we have 1 chain left. Now that we've put 1 half double crochet into every chain, into that last chain we're going to do an increase of 2 half doubles. So yarn over, into that last chain with 1, and then into that same last chain with 2 half double crochets. And now we're going to connect it into the base. So how we're going to do that is find that next available stitch into the base and just slip stitch into there to connect our first row. Then to work our way up to the following row, we're going to slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base and flip our work. Now those 2 slip stitches that we did don't count as stitches, that's just to connect our rows. And we're going to repeat, starting with an increase of 2 back loop half double crochets. So yarn over, finding the last stitch from our previous row, not the slip stitches worked into the base. We're going to insert into that back loop with an increase of 2. So there's 1, 2 back loop half double crochets, and from here put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch again, and I'll meet you back when we have 1 stitch left. We have finished our row 2 and almost finished our row 3. We've put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch, leaving that last one, and now we're going to do an increase together. So how we're going to do that is yarn over. Insert your hook into that last back loop with 1 half double, and then into that same back loop with a second half double, and that is our increase of 2. And now since we're here, we're just going to connect it into the base together once more. So finding that next stitch into the base, slip stitch into there to connect this row. Then to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next stitch into the base, and flip our work. And just to get started on our following even number row, start by finding the last stitch from our previous row, not the slip stitches into the base, and insert into that back loop with an increase of 2 back loop half doubles, and then 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch after that. From here, we're going to continue to repeat these 2 rows until we make our way all the way up to the last stitch that we have on this side of our shoulder seam. Now once we have that, I will meet you back so we can get started on the other half of our sleeve. Alright, so we are back and we have just made our way all the way up with the increase half of our sleeve. Now since we should all be along the outer edge, what we're going to do is chain 2, flip our work, and then put 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch until we have 2 stitches left right next to the base, and then I'll meet you back to decrease together. I've made my way down with my back loop half double crochets. Now we're going to do our decrease and then slip stitch it into the base, and that next available stitch that we should all have should be the stitch that we have that's on the other side of our shoulder seam. This is my shoulder seam right here. So what we're going to do is yarn over, insert your hook into that second to last stitch, pull through, then into that last stitch, making sure we're working into that back loop, pull through, then yarn over, pull through all 4 of those loops. Then let's slip stitch it into the base. So this is my next available stitch. We're just going to slip stitch it into that stitch. So we're connecting it into the base the same way that we've been doing. And from here, just to work our way up to the following row, slip stitch into that next available stitch into the base and flip our work. And now that we're working our way out towards the outside of our sleeve, we're now going to start with a decrease of 2 back loop half double crochets. So yarn over, find that last stitch's back loop, insert, pull through, find that following stitch's back loop, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 4, and that's it. Continue with 1 back loop half double crochet into every stitch. And all we're going to do is at the end of the row, chain 2, flip our work, and then repeat our 2 previous rows until we don't have any more stitches left to work into the base. When we don't, I will meet you back so we can seam our sleeve together. So I am back and I have just finished up the decrease half of my sleeve. I don't have any more stitches left to work into, so now we're going to seam our sleeve together. So let's all start by making sure that our work is flipped wrong side out. Then we're going to insert our hook into the corner stitch of both the front and the back panel, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure. And now we're going to do a single crochet seam. So to get that started, insert your hook into that first stitch into the front panel, your stitch into the back panel, and single crochet. Let's do just 1 more. Next stitch into the front, next stitch into the back, and single crochet. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this until we don't have any more stitches left to work into, and when we don't, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our sleeve is all seamed up, we're ready to start working on our cuff. So since our sleeve is pretty big, we're going to need to do some decreases with this first single crochet row. So make sure that our work is flipped right side out, right side up, and we're going to insert our same hook into any one of the side rows that we have along the bottom of our sleeve. Then we're going to do a decreasing single crochet row with our primary color yarn, so the same color yarn as our body, and insert that onto your hook. You're going to pull through and do a chain up of 1 to secure. Now we're going to do a decrease of 2 single crochets into every set of side rows that we have. So insert your hook into that following side row. This is mine right here. I'm going to insert into that top loop, yarn over, pull through. Insert into that following side row, find that top loop, insert, pull through for a total of 3 loops on our hook, then yarn over and pull through all 3. Let's do this again. Into our following side row, find that top loop, insert, pull through, into that following side row, into that top loop, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And that's it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around. And when we do, slip stitch into that chain space and do a chain up of 1 and cut. So now that our single crochet row with our primary color yarn is all finished up, we're going to do a second single crochet row with our secondary color yarn. So right after we slip stitched into that chain space and did a chain up of 1 and cut, go ahead and insert your hook into any one of the stitches that we have along the bottom of our sleeve. Insert your secondary color yarn onto your hook, pull through, do a chain up of 1 to secure, and we're going to be doing a single crochet row, so just put 1 single crochet into every stitch, making our way all the way around. When we do, slip stitch into that chain space and I'll meet you back. So now that our single crochet row with our secondary color yarn is finished, we're now going to do our front and back post double crochets for the cuff, pretty much the same way that we did the bottom band. So our following row right after the single crochet row is going to be a half double crochet row. So right after we slip stitch into that chain space, we're all going to chain 2 and make our way around, putting 1 half double crochet into every stitch. At the end of the row, slip stitch into that second chain. So now that our half double crochet row, we're going to get started on our ribbing. So right after we slip stitch into that second chain, chain 2, and start with our front post double crochet. We already know how to do these, so I'm just going to do this a little bit quicker. But yarn over, find the first half double crochet from our previous row, making sure we're not working into that chain 2. Insert your hook underneath through the other side with 1 front post double, then a back post double. So yarn over, insert your hook under your work over that following available half double, pull through 2, pull through 2, and continue with 1 front post and 1 back post double crochet into every stitch. So our first front and back post double crochet row are finished. Now from here, we're just going to repeat this row until we get the length of the cuff that we want. So just as a super quick refresher, we have slip stitched into that second chain that we made when we started this row. Now to get started on the following row, we're going to chain 2, and I'm just going to do the first set of stitches with you. And that first stitch should be a front post double crochet. So yarn over, inserting underneath that first front post double crochet from our previous row, another front post double crochet on top of that, and now a back post. So yarn over that next back post from our previous row, pull through two, pull through two, and that's basically it. We're going to continue doing this, making our way all the way around, and just continue this until we get the length of the cuff. When we have that, do a chain up of 1 and cut. So I am back with my cuff. I did a total of 10 rows, and that is including my first single crochet row with our primary color. That total length is just about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters, and once we have that finished up, repeat that on the other side. And now that we have both of our sleeves and cuffs all finished, we are all done. The last thing I'm going to have to do is weave in all of our ends. And there you have it. Hope y'all enjoyed the tutorial. Join us on Instagram, Pinterest, or Twitter. Those links are down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!